American history defines itself as one of revolution, heroism, and exceptionalism. For centuries, the memory of our beginnings solely rested on a singular perspective. As events fade further into memory, facts become distorted continuously to fit the canon of the American ideal. The demand for truth and the acknowledgement of Black history, with all its terror and violence, is as much a part of the American tale as the whitewashed traditional narrative of the nation. And through it, our understanding of our country's past becomes starkly different from reality. After 4 harrowing years of civil war, the legislature of 1864, elected by Unionists in Louisiana, adopted the 13th Amendment, abolishing slavery. Yet, further unrest and turmoil within the shifting nation would eventually lead to tensions boiling over. Black Americans soon learned of a new threat to their livelihood, as former Confederates and white supremacists sought to prevent them from enjoying their newly recognized citizenship. In honor of Juneteenth, we look at the events that followed, and the hard road Black Americans endured following slavery's end. This is the nearly forgotten history of an attempt by Black Americans to stand their ground and demand recognition and representation. This video aims to illuminate a small part of that history in hopes of inspiring others to uncover a truer picture of life for Black Americans during the tumultuous era of Reconstruction. This is the story of the Colfax Massacre. The Louisiana town of Colfax developed as a black man's town, described by area whites as a mecca of bad and desperate Negroes from everywhere. In the lowlands of Louisiana, the black population exceeded the white. The virulence that made Louisiana dangerous terrain for the Reconstruction effort created a perfect environment for the eventual climax that would occur. With the overshadowing threat of white supremacists and their lack of regard for life, blacks soon began appearing in military formations under arms when attending polling stations. These groups of black militiamen would eventually make their bid to gain control of the situation by occupying the courthouse in Colfax, asserting their wish for a local sheriff and judge. A week after the seizure of the courthouse, a group of 19 men, led by reputed Klansman James West Hadnot, made a show of strength by presenting their rifles, asserting to the locals of Colfax that a violent altercation was on the horizon. The blacks of Colfax remained unshaken, believing in their rights as citizens, prepared for a fight. Accounts of what happened on Easter Sunday describe a show of black defiance and fear. A member of those whites taking part in the siege of Colfax's courthouse, Christopher Columbus Nash, asked the self-identified commander of the black militiamen, Benjamin Lev Allen, "Lev, what do you Negroes want there in Colfax?" Allen replied, "We are doing nothing more than we were before, standing still as we have been standing." About noon on Easter Sunday, April 12th, the armed white militia crossed the Bayou Darrow and set upon the courthouse, where the black militia took refuge. The skirmish began with the whites firing in volleys into the courthouse, eventually setting it ablaze. Those black Americans who remained within the courthouse raised a white flag of truce. At once, the white militants advanced to the house, killing those remaining black survivors, with few escaping. The survivors who had escaped were eventually rounded up and executed upon limbs of a nearby spreading oak, or shot. Some accounts report that nearly 13 black prisoners had been hung and left as a reminder to the remaining black residents of Colfax to remain in their place. Annie Elzey, Etienne Elzey's wife, testified that a white man, Clement Penn, selected her husband to be held up as he shot him. "I was looking directly at Penn when he shot my husband. I heard him beg for his life," Annie recalled. When the dust settled, the horror of what had just occurred became apparent. 150 black Americans and 3 white Americans lay dead. Silently, the group of white men disappeared, and the victims' family members and neighbors set out to bury their dead. A young white man who had apparently taken part in the massacre told a crew of steamboat members that if they wanted to see dead Negroes, here was a chance, for there were 100 or so scattered over the village and the adjacent fields. An eyewitness to the event recalled the bodies were scattered every few steps and relying on their faces, but the remains of those who were shot in the courthouse sickened most of us and caused a general cry of "Let's go back." Today, the event is remembered in the town of Colfax in the form of a plaque that reads, "On this site occurred the Colfax riot, in which 3 white men and 150 Negroes were slain." This event on April 13, 1873, marked the end of carpetbag misrule in the South. Along with the plaque is an obelisk that bears the inscription, erected to the memory of the heroes Stephen Decatur Parrish, James West Hadnot, Sidney Harris, who fell in the Colfax riot fighting for white supremacy. By sharing this story and others like it, we as Americans can acknowledge the horror inflicted on Black Americans and gain a better grasp of the American tale. It is crucial to share these stories as they present us with the hard truth of Black Americans' journey, providing us with an opportunity to grow and learn. The events within this documentary represent a microcosm of American history, one filled with oppression, white terror, and a nation's complicated racial and political dynamic. Only then can we grow as a nation, and this time for the better. For more information, Leanna Keats' well-documented book offers a detailed chronicle of Colfax's beginning and the events that led up to the eventual massacre.